Hello, I am Bailey Leisure, and after a long and eventful NHL playoffs, we get one of the most unpredictable Stanley Cup Finals matchup in years. As in this video, I will be talking about the Stanley Cup Finals this year between the Washington Capitals and the expansion team Vegas Golden Knights, giving my analysis on the matchup and predicting who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year. So starting off with who's representing the Eastern Conference, we got the Washington Capitals. A team that has a generational superstar in Alex Ovechkin. Now a veteran. You know, it seemed like it had been over 20 or it had been 20 years since the Washington Capitals made it past the second round. They finally did it, and I gotta say they were very mentally resilient between than they were in previous years. I mean, there was that running meme that they had done, not being able to get past the second rounds. Last couple years being eliminated by the Pittsburgh Penguins en route to a couple Stanley Cups that they got. You know, and they were just. It seemed like every time the Capitals were down and out, they came back and fought. Columbus Blue Jackets, they lost two straight overtime games in that first round at home in overtime, were a goal away from being down 3 games to nothing when they came back and won four straight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They then, in the second round, faced the Penguins again. If game one didn't start off great for them, they lost. They had a 2-0 lead in that third period when they lost to the Penguins. But they went out, won game two, got a game in Pittsburgh in games 3 and 4. Game five, they won, got a late goal, won game five, and then game six, backed by Braden Holtby. Just they were able to get it done. Evgeny Kuznetsov scored that overtime goal. Finally got that demon and that monkey off their back. Finally got to the third round. Got off to a great start against the Tampa Bay Lightning, winning getting those two road games, then lost their next two games at home. So it was kind of and then lost game five. And you're thinking, oh, is this going to be a reversal from the Columbus series? But won game six, backed by Holtby, backed by some great performances by TJ Oshie and contributions, and then Alex Ovechkin, who's been leading the way. Started off the game in game one, got a couple more goals and won 4-0 and shut out the Lightning in that series in the final 2.5 games, and are in the Stanley Cup final for the first time in 20 years, their second Stanley Cup final appearance, and they're looking to win their first, led by guys like Ovechkin, one of the generational superstars trying to, get that Stanley Cup, something a lot of people want to see him do. They got great players like Evgeny Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie, John Carlson, Nicholas Backstrom, Braden Holtby, who didn't start off as the starting goaltender in this this playoffs, but came in and midway through that first series and has really been helping the Capitals along the way. So they're looking to win their first Stanley Cup. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, the team I don't think anybody expected to do anything this year, the expansion team, Las Vegas Golden Knights. The expansion draft, everybody was just thinking, okay, this is going to be a tank year. No, this is probably one of the most amazing stories in sports in recent years. And, I mean, being an expansion team, not anybody expecting them to do anything, get to the playoffs. They take down the Kings. Really a great performance all through this postseason by the three-time Stanley Cup winning champion Marc-Andre Fleury, and he's been their star. In the second round, took down the Sharks in 6 games. Then they in the Western Conference Finals faced a red-hot Winnipeg Jets team, and after losing game one, that was their only hiccup. Guys like James Neal and David Perron and their big goal scorer Jonathan Marchessault, that's really been what's led them as well. Took the next 2 games in Vegas, and then in game 5 played a close game, but got game 5. And this is really a story. First team in 50 years to do this, I think, in all North American sports teams, that an expansion team gets to the championship round in one of those big 4 leagues. The last team to do it and was about 50 years ago when the St. Louis Blues did it. This is really an amazing story. Probably if the Golden Knights pull this off, this is probably going to get made into a Disney movie. Hopefully the quality is somewhere between Miracle and the Mighty Ducks. But so this is really just one of the most unlikely, sports stories I think I've ever seen watching sports in the last 15 years. Just what you've seen from this team. It's really amazing, and this is for the Capitals. They're facing the old foe that's eliminated them in past rounds, Marc-Andre Fleury, and this is really going to be a big test for both teams. And as this is the first time in 11 years to note that we're having two teams looking for their first Stanley Cup since the '07 finals between the Anaheim Ducks and the Ottawa Senators, and the Ducks took the cup that year. So this is just shaping up to be a great final. So the three X factors for each team that will be big for both teams. I'm going to start off with the Washington Capitals. Three players that are going to be X factors. Number one is obviously Alex Ovechkin. Your captain, your leader. This is the new territory he's been in. I mean, this is a guy, generational superstar, first Stanley Cup final, first chance at the Stanley Cup. He's a Hall of Fame player, but this is really where, he goes into he could go into legendary status. So he's obviously the one person the Capitals are going to be looking at. After that, I'd say Braden Holtby. He's been great, and ever since coming in for relief in that Columbus series, he's going to be huge, especially going up against Marc-Andre Fleury, who I'll get into a minute. But he's going to have to play. Marc-Andre Fleury is going to play very well, I predict, and he's going to have to play just as well. And then I think Evgeny Kuznetsov, he's been really helping out Ovechkin and has been one of their top scorers as well. So that's gonna be huge for them. Those three players. Meanwhile, with Vegas, I'm gonna take number one. Obviously, is Marc-Andre Fleury. He's been the story. I think the biggest story in this whole playoffs. Carrying Vegas. I mean, this run he's made has pretty much stamped his ticket after his career into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Three-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Although those last two were pretty much won by Matt Murray. He was the main starting goaltender there. Although he was big in helping with those playoff runs as well. But then you have obviously Jonathan Marchessault, their top goal scorer, and then for the third one, I'm basically everybody else. If you help out Marchessault, so guys like David Perron, Braden McNabb, Cody Eakin, those guys right there. If they're able to get some great secondary scoring along with Marchessault is able to produce, then it's the Golden Knights, because I think from a scorers wise, they got more offensive weapons. But I like the goaltender with Vegas just a little bit more. So my predictions for this Stanley Cup final. I think this will go 7 games. I feel like both teams are so evenly matched that I feel like we'll get our first 7-game series since the 2011 Stanley Cup final. From goaltenders wise, I like Marc-Andre Fleury. In fact, I feel like this series goes at least 6 games. Then I think from how well he's played, I think he'll be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. The reason I think that, even if they lose the series, I feel like he'll win it. Which has not happened since the 2003 Stanley Cup final between the Ducks and the Devils when Jean-Sébastien Giguère won that for the Mighty Ducks. But I just feel like I feel like he'll play well enough to win the Conn Smythe. But obviously the Golden Knights, they want to win the Stanley Cup. He'll definitely be the Stanley Cup, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner for the Golden Knights, and I think he'll be it overall for the series if it goes into a deep series. For the Capitals, I think will be Alex Ovechkin, obviously, followed by Evgeny Kuznetsov as well. I think for the Golden Knights, if they have anybody else, it'd be Jonathan Marchessault. But I think it's going to be a close series. It's going to go 7 games. Even though I like the star power and scores more on the Capitals, I just feel like Marc-Andre Fleury, his experience is going to come into play, and they've really just built off that. And I think I feel like this series it's going to be hard for both teams to steal a road game, and I feel like nobody's going to do that. And since they have home ice advantage, I'm going to take the Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games. Even though both this is very tight, and it could go either way. But I'm going to take the Vegas Golden Knights in 7 games to win the Stanley Cup in their first season in existence. And Marc-Andre Fleury, regardless of who wins, will win the Conn Smythe Trophy. That's it for my Stanley Cup prediction video. So thanks everybody for watching. Follow me on Twitter at BaileyLager96. I did a recent appearance on the Guns N' Roses Central podcast once again last weekend, so check that out in the description below. I recently did 2 movie reviews for the movie Deadpool 2, so check that out as well. I decided not to do a review on Solo: A Star Wars Story, as I was going to do something else for that, but that fell through, so that's not going to happen. If you like the video, click like, subscribe if you like the content on my channel, and please just leave your comments below in the comments section on what your thoughts are going to be on the Stanley Cup Final this year. So thanks to everybody for watching, and I will see you all later.